Hello YouTube and welcome back to Stevetown. This is episode 8 and we are going to jump straight in today with a bit of a time-lapse while I waffle. And to be quite frank, part of the reason that we're doing a time-lapse today is because I haven't had that much time to get a lot done, so I thought we'll fill some time in the episode with a bit of a time-lapse and I can just have a little chat. So there was a point this week where I hadn't opened the file for about 4 days, and some of you might think, well, 4 days, big whoop, that's not very long. But if you're wondering like how I've managed to get so much stuff done with this project in the last 2 months or so since I started, basically worked, I would say almost every day I've opened the file and played for, even if it's just half an hour or an hour, I've opened the file and done something. So having a kind of like a 4-day period or a 5-day period where I didn't open the game at all felt, I don't know, at the time, before I started doing this time-lapse stuff, I was kind of having a moment of like, oh god, I haven't opened the file. I was getting a little bit worried because I had this feeling where I was like, I think I might have finally burned out. Like, I don't want to open the file. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to think about how much stuff I need to do in the next however many weeks. I think part of this is kind of about inspiration, like part of what burnout is when you sort of run out of exciting ideas that are inspiring you. Like part of the kind of gas that's kept me going for the first couple of months on this project. I kept having ideas that I could see how to execute and they were exciting. And I was kind of getting into this flow state where one idea was inspiring another idea, everything keeps falling into place. You finish one area and I could kind of intuitively see like, oh, this is what needs to go into this area here. And you know how it goes. I don't need to explain the creative process. But I think because I was busy with real life, like I wasn't opening the game as much. And when you kind of disconnect from that, like, creative flow state that I was in, the ideas just kind of stopped coming. So I was a little bit worried. I was like, I need to open the file and work on Stevetown, and I know that I've got like this blank space that I need to fill to finish the park, but I don't know exactly what I'm going to do in that space yet. And yeah, I don't know, it was kind of this fear of like not having like an idea kind of for the first time in the project, and that was kind of filling me with some mild dread. I opened the project because I was like, well, I need to just like crack on anyway. And I opened the project. And once I like opened the project and actually looked at what I was planning to do next and the space that I had, like, sure enough, the ideas started flowing again. And I was just like, well, I think I was just sort of back in the zone then. And that leads on to another point, which is a good way to kind of stay engaged in a project at this point. If you reach a point where the inspiration's running low for the kind of hero ideas, like the broader ideas for different areas or kind of like big buildings that you want to make, I think you can just use that time to do, the relatively menial tasks like nature detailing or curbing or going back and tidying up backstage areas. Obviously now I've got this massive car park that I've started doing, and that I've been finding that to be quite valuable. Like if it's like, wow, I've got some time to play the game, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do, I'll put a podcast on or whatever and I'll just do the car park. And I'll say as a result of doing the kind of menial stuff, you often kind of get into this like Zen flow state while you're doing that anyway, and that creates this opportunity for like ideas to kind of, well, for inspiration to strike. I think, they say you quite often have your best ideas when you're in the shower or going for a pee or whatever. Yeah, I think you can kind of like create that. You can kind of force those moments of inspiration striking by, like I say, doing like menial repetitive things where your mind is allowed to wander a little bit. And then obviously as a nice side bonus to that, you end up getting all the boring stuff done so that you can get back to having fun making cool looking stuff. And that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? Making cool stuff. So yeah, I think we're basically back on track at this point. And as I've said previously, it's not a massive amount, but what we do have is looking pretty nice. So yeah, let's jump on over to the real time section. Okay, here we are next to the flying scooters. I wanted to start here today primarily just to quickly give a shout out to Commander Real War, and I think Jonty as well, both left comments on the last episode. that this station building desperately needed some trims on the corners of the building. As you can see here, I've just added some trims to this tower and the corners here, and this little entrance to the underneath of the station here, and around on the back side as well. They were absolutely right. It desperately needed just this little bit of finishing. It kind of breaks up the swathes of purple, and yeah, it's just a small touch which vastly improves the whole thing. So shout out to those guys. Thanks for keeping me accountable. Yeah, and I should also just quickly mention that I added in this little cover here on the brake run. I don't know why the coaster isn't moving right now. What's going on here? Open? Not sure. We don't need to worry about that right now. The coaster's not running for some reason. Anyway, I've added this kind of cover on the brake run here, and this part here is partially exposed so that trains, if they need to, you know, take a train off or add on a new train or whatever, they've got this kind of service road which now comes up here to the brake run behind the queue path and everything there. Also, this was here last time, but I don't think I pointed out that there is an entrance to the gift shop on this side of the building as well as on this side. So you can kind of, you know, once you kind of exit off the coaster here, you can come down and you can go in the gift shop. There's a little seating area. And then this path also comes out over here next to this cafe, which I also don't think I pointed out last time that this has now got a name. This is Steve's Place, and it's, you know, it's just a little cafe, a bit like Walt's in Disneyland. This is like, you know, this would be Steve's favorite little place just to come and chill out. Which brings me on to a larger point of this whole area that we're looking at today, which is that this back end of the park, partly as a result of the fact that I'm sort of limiting the scope of what I was going to do around here, I've obviously ended up leaving this like quite sparse, but that's created this really nice quiet zone in the park where once you kind of leave this area, you enter into this really nice kind of tranquil quiet zone, this whole back area of the park really. Not to say that there's nothing around here, but it's fairly sparse, especially relative to the rest of the park, which is really densely packed, and it just feels really nice and quiet and calm. Got a little picnic area here, just a couple of tables. You can sort of gently hear the water on the log flume. And of course, we finally got Emax's Pinfari in situ in the park. I really wanted to have it next to this hill with the log flume on, and you get this kind of nice moment when you're up at the top of the ride here and you're kind of up at the same level, not quite the same level, but you know, you're up next to the log flume, and it kind of creates this cool moment of interaction on both rides where you can see one another, and I just think that's a really nice moment. The blueprint for this that Emax made, you know, had all of the like fairground lighting and all of that sort of stuff on, and I've just sort of stripped all that away in the way that you would usually see these rides once they're installed in parks, but it's still very much like we bought this secondhand and slapped it down on a bit of empty land, and you know, they've not put that much effort into it. It's just really simple, and I've called it Flying Squirrel because it just sort of felt right sticking it here amongst the trees. You've got a cute little one car situation, so yeah, I don't know, it felt right, and I think it looks really nice on this little kind of hill here, leading down out around the back of this area. Thanks again to Emax for this lovely blueprint. As you may have seen in my Planco 2 projects video where I was looking at unfinished projects, this blueprint I've been trying to use this blueprint in a project for years at this point, and I'm happy to finally have it in place. Emax did a lovely job with it. Shout outs to Emax. And then over the other side we've got just this little hot dog shack. I initially built this to go like way over the other side of the park, over in this, I think it was opposite this chairlift station in the kind of seafront area, but it just didn't feel like the right fit for that. I ended up replacing it with that coffee shop, and as I was just building this area out here, this just felt like a really nice spot for it. So yeah, a little hot dog shack, a few tables, and then here on the side of the hill on the left we've got this ride, the name of which I can't remember, and I haven't given it a name in Stevetown yet. But yeah, just wanted to keep this really simple, fenced it off with a little flower bed in front, and then because I'm using the Invisible Doodads mod, obviously I'm able to just sort of replace the elevated pad with concrete where it needs to go, because the guests, they get off from the queue here, they just get straight on and then they get straight off here. So all of this like massive pad around here, you can see the other staircase here, I've sort of half-heartedly covered that with bushes, but I mean, you're never going to see it from this side anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then over on the other side here, we've got the thing that I was working on in the time-lapse, which was, I was thinking about how over on this little island, we've got a pylon here, and obviously we've got pylons in the water as well. And I was just thinking, I don't know, maybe at some point it might be useful that they would be able to access this island to do maintenance on this, or if for any reason that they need to get out in the water really, I thought it would be probably useful for them to have a short pier and a little dinghy with an outboard motor. It's just kind of like a little maintenance boat really, and then I wanted to just build that in with a little bit of scenery here. It's the same kind of treatment that I've been giving to the waterfront all around this area. Been really loving this kind of rubble piece from Hydro. I think it adds a nice little bit of 3D depth to the shoreline to have this kind of rubble rocks. You know, it kind of just looks like stony gravel or whatever. And yeah, I don't think I really showed this off much in the last episode, but yeah, as you can see, like this kind of like overgrown shoreline with like really thick reeds and bushes is kind of just present all the way along here, and it's very much the same on this island in the middle as well. Lots of overgrowth, lots of rubble, and I think it's looking pretty nice. It's kind of difficult in this game to do like large stretches of, you know, just nature, because we don't really have the assets like in Zoo. I feel like you can get away with doing these large luscious areas of foliage and stuff because you've got so many options to work with, whereas here in Planet Coaster it's harder to do these kinds of areas where you've just got foliage and terrain work. So as far as those things are considered, I'm pretty chuffed with how this has come out. And obviously this is a Mike Sheets Michael N7 special custom tree from his tree pack that he made, and I tend to use them sparingly because they've just got so many of these foliage pieces which tend to be quite hard on the frame rate. So I use them sparingly, but I think if you use them every now and then, just as like a feature tree sort of thing, they work really well for that because it sort of sticks out against the kind of noise of the rest of the trees, which all look very similar. So yeah, that's all looking lovely. Little shack here, just, you know, keeping some tools or whatever in there for when they need to take the boat out. And then the last little bit of today's episode is this Nitro refresh station. This is again just playing off the Nitro Energy sponsor from the log flume. I thought, well, if we've got the Nitro Energy sponsor on the log flume, maybe this would be prevalent in other places in the park as well. And I built this canopy thing. I made this as a TMTK piece here. And the original idea with this framework here was that it was going to be kind of I was maybe going to do like a gardens area or like a nature walk, and this was just going to be in the middle of that area as kind of a gazebo, like a little shade area. And then I thought it would actually be funny to take that idea and just commercialize it, basically. So I turned it blue and stuck the Nitro Energy logos on it, and I've turned it into this little refresh station where you've just got a bunch of vending machines. And I was quite happy to bring back these FizzWiz machines that I built for No Name Landia. And obviously I've turned the blue one into a Nitro Energy machine. I did suggest on Discord that it would be funny if Nitro Energy was owned by FizzWiz in the same way that like Monster Energy is owned by Coca-Cola. So I don't know if this is actual Bro Coaster canon at this point, but at least for Stevetown it is. I think this is correct, that the origin of the FizzWiz brand is that it was invented by Mike Sheets. Michael. For an old RCT3 project. So I just thought as a fun little nod to that, we'd have a little graffiti on the side of the machine here where some dastardly youth called N7 has tagged the side of it and forgotten to get rid of the spray can afterwards. So yeah, pretty chuffed with how that's come out. And as I said, I'm really enjoying the kind of like quiet vibes over on this side of the park. Everything's a little bit more spread out and just quieter. And again, the terrain work, having this really gradual slope that kind of comes all the way down here, just feels really nice. I really like it. And it basically just leaves, in terms of actual park stuff, it basically just leaves this one area here where this last ride is going to go in. And yeah, I think that's going to come together reasonably quickly. I'm not too concerned about it. And then outside of the park, I've done a little bit more work on the car park, finishing this off here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add like the impression of a road running like down here so that you can see kind of the junction where you turn off to enter the car park here. And then this would be kind of like a service access road here for big lorries to come and go from the park here. There would be a kind of like service access only road that comes up this side of the car park here. And then yeah, I was thinking on the junction of the road here I might build I've got some old blueprints I could use here for maybe have like a little mini strip mall on the other side of the road. And I guess we'll talk more about this maybe once I've finished this junction area up, but if anybody knows what this is, then shout outs to you. And then yeah, obviously I still need to kind of shore up this bit of backstage here, and there's going to be some more backstage over here which will link up to this area here, and that's basically what we've got left to do. So it's really not that much in the grand scheme of things. I'm feeling good about it. For all my worrying about feeling uninspired, I think I'm feeling pretty good about what's left to do. It's not too much. It feels very doable. Thank you once again for joining me and for all the love on the series so far. I really very much appreciate it. Be good to each other, and I will catch you next time. Bye! Yes.